Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of X-Men the Animated Series Season 1, Episode 7, Slave Island. This originally came out February 13th, 1993. Before I jump into my review, make sure to subscribe so you can catch all things X-Men on this channel, whether it's reviews of figures, shows, movies, you name it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. So in this show so far, this, without a doubt, has the most cameos we've seen yet. So just to start, you see Cable's team of X-Force with Cable, Domino, Feral, Thunderbird, or Warpath. The debate's still out about that. Caliban and Richter. And then you also have, of course, Mystique, Avalanche, the Blob, which I loved, Pyro, and Sunfire. So Jubilee, Storm, and Gambit wake up, and they are literally at this camp where they are slaves, and they have collars on to control their powers. They are told they're going to be able to turn the collars off when they work so they can use their powers, but if they try to escape, the collars will come back on immediately. If they try to destroy the collar, it will explode and kill them. But Storm tries it anyway, and what they exactly stated exactly happens, where she tries to escape, and her collar comes back on. And not only that, a Sentinel is the one that finds her and brings her back. So that's already giving you a clue that Trask and Gyrick are here. And Gambit has this great line, "There's always more gators in the bayou." I thought that was great. But you see, like last episode where Cyclops was tough on Gambit, saying he was just making rumors up about Genosha, you also have Jubilee not trusting Gambit. Even from the start of this episode when he's telling her to stop and not follow Storm, that's a bad idea. She's very resistant to it. And that will continue on as the episode goes on, where Jubilee thinks Gambit actually betrayed them. But Gambit had his best episode to date in this episode, and he takes initiative on his own and becomes a leader in his own sense, but behind the scenes, which I really liked. And he also saves Storm here. They were about to dispose of Storm, and he tells them her full capabilities, even though you don't really want to do that. It was the only way she was going to survive here. And Trask is like, yeah, that's useful. Put her in the box. And I forgot till Jubilee says it. That's the worst thing for someone like Storm with her claustrophobia. But a great line here is from the Blob when Gambit and Jubilee are working behind him. And he says, "Put your weight into it, pretty boy." That was so good. And this leader character is so strange and fascinating. You first hear him on the speakers before you see him. And he's like, "I have decided no more work today. Remember, your leader loves you." Just very strange. But they quickly cut to our first shot of the X-Men at the mansion. We get the information that Wolverine is back and that Professor X is not coming with them to Genosha. He calls the Mutant Research Center in Scotland and wants to talk to an old friend, Moira. So it's setting up someone important later on. And this is brought up that a genius in Scotland, the leader says, made the collar, so I wonder if that's the same person. That's a nice sprinkle of setup, but not too much, which I like. That doesn't take over the episode or take over a whole storyline. Now, the only thing about this episode that was very, very annoying was the blinking collars. I could handle just the blinking visually, but the sound in it was still going, and it was so distracting with the dialogue, especially when Jubilee's trying to talk to people with her plan. It's just going, eh, eh, eh. Honestly, it would have just been better to have the collars lit up and no sound, and just staying lit and not blinking, because we could still tell if it's on or off, if it's lit or not. So I thought the blinking and the sounds was bizarre. It was just so annoying. But you see, Gambit's a little moody when Jubilee tells him her plan, what she's gonna do. He's not into that plan. He's like, "Why don't you go tell them the plan?" Because she wants him to go tell it, and she's a little kind of like weary of his response. But Gambit at that moment is thinking of his own plan and what he thinks is the right way to go about this, instead of this aggressive approach that Jubilee and Storm both have used in this episode. It's a more clever approach. I love, though, when Jubilee's telling everyone her plan. At one point, the Blob is like, "Dumb kid, go to bed." It was so good. So Jubilee's plan actually fails miserably, but it's also because Gambit is taking into action his own plan that's going to result in that happening. Like I said, he's taking initiative over someone else, but without actually telling them. So that's where it can be a little controversial for the X-Men. Now, Trask shows Gyrick this master mold, and it's literally a mama Sentinel here giving birth to Sentinels. And then we also meet the leader, who's formerly known as the Colonel, which is going to be important to a character who shows up in this episode. And we meet Cameron Hodge. What's interesting is Gyrick wants Gambit to tell him where the X-Men are, but Gambit instead wants to show him part of his plan. And Gambit's like, to convince Gyrick, he says, "They are not my friends. They don't trust me." just using me like you. Now, what's great about that writing is there is a little truth in what Gambit's saying in a way he feels about them not trusting him. So I like that he doesn't fully feel that way. He's saying it to that extreme there, but he has some kind of mixed feelings about how they don't trust him sometimes and kind of gets left out or put to the side a bit. Doesn't get that same respect as like a Cyclops. But I love when he's in the enemy vehicle to get out of it. He just uses a simple card trick without his powers, which was great to see. And it's perfect timing where Cable shows up and he's looking for the leader. So that used to be his colonel. And he gives Gambit a key for his collar. So Gambit's now free to use his powers. And let's just say that Cable steals the episode from this point on and is amazing in his entrance. I also love how they show Cable run through the woods where his posture's perfect the whole time. Like, he doesn't lean forward. His back is just perfectly running. It's so funny looking. I love it. And it's cool because it's playing over as a narration of Gyrick asking Hodge who this man is. And he's like, he was a mercenary in the leader's army until he found out the leader wasn't the champion of democracy he claimed to be. We suspect he's a mutant, and he took to the hills to start a revolution. So it's just an awesome, quick exposition about Cable. Now, Gambit goes to rescue Storm and Jubilee, and at the same time, Trask and Gyrick are offering Sentinels for collars to the leader. But this is where Cable is just shooting the place up from afar, and then he's actually going to infiltrate himself. And it's greatly blended with the X-Men themselves taking care of business inside of the camp. And Jubilee frees all the mutants. And the coolest thing, again, is Storm being my favorite character, using her power to bring down the whole dam was incredible. It was a full use of Storm's power. It was just an awesome moment. And Rogue saving her was great. And having that cut between Cable infiltrating the Factory of Sentinels was awesome. And I love, though, at this point, the leader's like, take me to my car at once, and Hodge is brushing his jacket while he's saying this, and they try to book her for Switzerland, but Cable's right there on the bridge staring at them. Great moment, stops them in their tracks. And I love his laugh when he has the leader in his hands and the water washes them. That was great. And it's great how that water from Storm's storm literally washes the Sentinel factory, and Master Mold says he's plugged in still, so you know he's going to get super electrocuted there. But I love the interesting line here, and again, good writing, where Jubilee says to Gambit, I'm sorry I didn't trust you, Gambit. I should have known you'd never really be a traitor. And he says, how do you know that, Petite? Maybe you've been fooled again. So again, it just makes you more fascinating in a character like Gambit, lines like that. And scares Jubilee, it scares the audience to hear that, so really like that. And we get this huge cliffhanger where Professor X isn't answering Cyclops' call and the school is destroyed. So just a very, very fun episode, and it has the best appearance to date yet, where that guest star will say is Cable, and he steals the show. He's so good. But it's also a great episode for Gambit. It's the best episode of Gambit so far, and you get this awesome moment with Storm. It's just maybe not the best written episode per se compared to some others, but it's one of the most fun so far. So that alone, and the visuals being really cool, and again, great guest appearances, I'm giving this one an 8.5. I think it's just one that I'll remember for just being really fun and just awesome entrance for a character like Cable. Let me know what you think down below of this episode, all your thoughts. I read every comment, try to respond as many as I can, and please subscribe. All X-Men stuff here. You're not going to miss it. This is a new channel, so help in so many ways. And I'll see you next time.